Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mental Health Warriors. I'm Annette Chiappe, and I am your self-care warrior. And today on the Power Hour of Self-Care, I will be, Mary is going to be joining me, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you about the continuing story of my journey through PTSD. And today I'm going to be talking about I was talking about fear last time, and I'm going to be continuing with that and talking about what I manifested, both the good and the bad. So hold tight and I'll be right back after this intro. And welcome back. And I hope you're having an amazing week. It's hump day, and that's always when I'm on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. I've had a very stressful week. It's sometimes I find just getting on and making a short video about how I'm doing in the mornings has been very helpful. So what I do is I'll go on to Facebook Live and I'll start chatting about how I've been feeling, what I've been doing, why I've been affected, how's my mental health, and it kind of makes me grounded and kind of centered. And I wanted to share with you a small story about something I do, and I'm going to read you one. And the small story is the very first thing I noticed after letting go of fear, all right, from getting through my PTSD. Now, I love to start on a positive note. What I'm talking about is the creation of my love, kindness, and compassion cards. Okay, so because I'm talking about what I manifested after feeling all that fear, I wanted to share with you a very unique, special card that is dear to my heart, and it's called You Do Matter. So I am the author and artist of all of these cards. And this one here, you can see here, is my artwork. And then inside I have another doodle, which I created, and a beautiful saying. So I'm just going to read it to you viewers, because you know what? One of the main things about getting through my PTSD was to understand that I do matter. And I think this will point out to a lot of people about how important it is to realize how much we do matter. Okay. If you find yourself wondering, what have I done? Maybe you're stumbling and not having fun. Remember, today is just one day, and there are more to come. If you worry daily that you're not doing enough, that each day drags on and you feel unclear, remember that someone holds you very dear. If time seems strange and you're all confused, or you can't even seem to be able to tie your shoes, and you feel all alone and that you can't make a difference, know in your heart you do matter. You matter to me, you matter to others, and most of all, you matter to the world. You are part of something spectacular. You do matter. I absolutely love this card. And while I wrote it, I reflected back on a lot of stuff. And I really, really wanted to talk to you about what manifests with fear. Because, oh my God, where to start? Let's talk about, in my first episode, part one of this series that I'm doing on my journey through PTSD. I want to talk about the fear of when I left. Okay, so leaving, getting into therapy, just to recap a little bit, sleeping on my friends' couches. That in itself contained such a huge seed of fear to be able to become unmobilized, because here I am lying on the couch in, terror about what's going to happen to me. And, it was like, how do I move? How do I breathe? How do I get through this day? And I eventually started reading, and I mentioned about the book of Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I started to do things. And, one of the main things that, and why I'm called the self care warrior, is my daily self care. So, fear actually brought me forward into doing self care, like daily self care. So, because I was afraid, okay, I had no hope in getting better. And then as I started to read and I started to understand that I was coming from a place of fear, it it also was like, well, if I stay in the fear, how am I going to get off the couch and get a job? You know, if I stay in the fear, how am I supposed to ever build some self-esteem? Right. So it was a constant reevaluation of, what is this fear causing to me? And I don't think we, when we're mentally ill, realize that even though we're struggling with our mental health, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to explore what areas of our life need love and what needs attention. And it's an opportunity to reach out. And I expressed that at the end of my part one about reaching out. And I reached out to friends and family, and I reached out to my doctor, and I reached out to strangers. I one of the reasons I moved on from places of fear was because I really, really loved the fact that the minute you start to say yes, okay, say, yes, I feel fear, but yes, I want to get out of this place of fear. And so I get off the couch, and I keep using the couch as a metaphor because it was my life for a long time. And um, so I got off the couch and I went to, well, I did finally get a job, and my boss had approached me about doing an event. And I'd never been like hosting or assisting at an event. And they were promoting their workplace and attempting to raise funds, and they were participating and helping other people raise funds. So I'm managing this table, and you know, I kind of just went with, okay, I'll just follow their lead. I'll let go of my fear. I'll just mingle and see who I can meet. So I wandered around, and eventually I ran into this wonderful soul who helped me get off a couch out of another sticky situation I was in. And she took me in to her home, and I rented a room from her. And, you know, if I hadn't felt that fear, if I hadn't got motivated to get off of my butt and keep going to therapy and keep reading the spirituality books, it would have been such a lengthy process of me discovering myself. Like it did take me a long time of learning to discover myself, to learning, letting go of all my fears. And now it's like, I feel a fear, I kind of confront it and look at it and go, well, what does this mean? What opportunity lies within this fear? What am I actually fearing? So I'm very inquisitive now with myself. I ask myself a lot of questions when it comes to what am I lacking in self care, right? So possibly, I didn't do my meditation. Oh, why didn't I do my meditation? Was I worrying about somebody else? Was I fearing that I wouldn't get something done? And that's a big one for me. I mean, all the time I'm on the run, working my business and helping people and fundraising and creating new products for mental wellness. And it's almost like, there's only so many hours in the day. So this little seed of fear will creep up and go, well, you're not going to accomplish this, so you better hurry. And then I'll get myself into a tizzy. But it's appropriate for me now to kind of just sit down, take a breath, and realize that you're not, you don't always have to be Wonder Woman. Now, I like being Wonder Woman, but you don't always have to be there for everybody. You have to start with being there for yourself. So that's one of the big things that came out of what I manifested in fear, was the realization that self-care had to come first, that I had to come first. We got a couple messages here from some viewers. Hi, Adam. I love you. I hope you're doing well. And Robert here. Hi, Robert. How you doing? He's going to show what he says here. He says, mental and health can at times seem like an oxymoron here, but I do know what it was that allowed the sort of confidence that doesn't fade to manifest in my life. Awesome. That's awesome, Robert. Yeah. And on talking about confidence, oh my Lord, fear held everything back for me about confidence. It's confidence. Wow. I need to do a card on that. And I see Mary in the background listening. Hi, Mary. I wanted to give you a shout out. And okay, so confidence. Let's talk about that. Well, going through my PTSD, living in that kind of fear, how the heck would I have any confidence? First of all, confidence implies that you have the knowledge and the ability to do something with trust in yourself. At least that's what my interpretation of it is. And going through what I'd been through, there was no confidence whatsoever in my ability to do anything, let alone get out of bed in the morning. So, one of the most beautiful things that a friend did for me was, she said, put on something that gives you empowerment. So I love leather. So I put on a leather top, and I sort of just kind of told myself, I can do this. I can do this. Even though I didn't feel I could do this, I had to keep saying that over and over so I could get through what I was doing at the time. And, fear, I think, has its purpose with confidence, because if you fear the ability to do, say, I'll use my daughters, for example. They both just recently got their driver's licenses, and there was a lot of fear. And I remember being a young, early mom and learning to drive. So reliving that with my daughters was a beautiful experience. And and the lack of confidence we have in ourselves has to grow and has to come from somewhere. So you have to get through the fear. And I was like, I can do this. I had a young baby I had to get around, and the ex-husband wasn't going to be driving me everywhere. So I decided, yeah, got to find some confidence, got to trust in myself, trust in the instructor, you know. And I did it. I built the confidence. I got my driver's license, and I was able to manifest something very positive. And, you know, the I'm really talking more about the positive manifestations of coming out of my fear from PTSD, because the negative is very remote for me now. Maybe I can give you an example of that. A negative result from fear, what I manifested. Okay, so I really feared the ability to, God, it's hard to remember something negative. Well, that goes to show you I've come a long way. Okay, go out on my own. I used to never be able to go out on my own. And so I would manifest this ability to just stay in bed, and I would lie there and I would make excuses. So those excuses, eventually I would lose opportunities, people asking me to go out with them, people wanting to take me to an event that would have been beneficial for my business, meeting new people that would have made an impact in how I am and who I am. And, it had such control over me, the fear, that it turned into like a kind of cloak to hide from the world. And that, of course, was very negative. And, I had one of the worst fears that I've always had, and which is much better now, and I'm a much better at doing it, is driving. Okay, because I've had somebody sideswipe me, almost a face-on collision, and dear God, it totally created like a whirlpool of fear, and I kept manifesting that I wasn't able to get back out on the road. It took me 2 weeks to get back out on the road. And I think it's a normal reaction to having almost a head-on collision. And, it maybe the negativity of it was that I felt, why was I victimized by somebody? Now, I'm pretty sure because he didn't stop and kept going, I'm pretty sure he was a drunk driver. So that started me thinking about, how am I going to drive safe now at night? Because it happened at night in the rain. And I kept that story going in my head for quite a few years, that it kind of almost paralyzed me to drive. And so it didn't make a very positive impact in my life. So those are a couple examples of the pros and cons of manifesting with fear. Now, the best thing that manifested throughout everything with my fear was the minute I pressed send on my laptop in my emails. This is a beautiful story, and I hope it inspires a lot of women out there that are separated from family. And I may not know your circumstances, but I had mentioned that one of my major traumas in my life was the fear of being reunited with my children, because I was estranged from them for over 20 years, physically, emotionally, spiritually, totally estranged from them. So this one day I decided I have to get over this fear and turn that story of being estranged into what I really truly believed in my heart, was that I would be reunited with my children. So I'm sitting at my computer. I had somebody help me write out, because they speak only Spanish. I had somebody write a translated letter for me to send to my oldest daughter, because I knew where they were. I suspected I'd be able to get in touch with them, although I tried before, hadn't happened. So I sat there, wrote out the letter, typed in her email address, and I sat there with my finger hovering above the send button, because I was so afraid to send the email, because I did not know what I was going to manifest. And Robert says, Spanish is such a beautiful language, and oh, I love it. I still speak it to today, but it's a little rusty. So here I was, 10 minutes, sitting with my finger hovering over the send button, facing one of the biggest fears of my life. And, talk about having no confidence. But on the other side of the coin was this nagging, talking head, okay, that was saying, you can do this. You need to do this, and you will live through this. And if it's a negative outcome from your response to your email, if you get nothing, then at least you tried. And that has been one of the biggest lessons for me to learn about getting out of fear and getting through traumas is you got to try. And I tried and I tried. And finally, 10 days later, I got an email. So, the best thing in my life that I manifested was being reunited with my children. And to learn that they were all healthy and doing okay was the biggest gift of the day I walked through my doors for therapy. Because if I hadn't done that, I would have never sent that email. And to this day, it's still really difficult to talk about that period of my life. And uh, am I traumatized still by it? No. I have accepted all the processes I went through to reconnect with myself and forgive myself about it. Um, is it a story that still makes me cry? Absolutely. Absolutely. The pain of remembering that is not traumatic. It's cleansing now. It's sort of like I went through that, I lived it, I survived it. I'm here to share this story with you. So, you can manifest. Before I add Mary in to comment on my conversation this morning, you can manifest the most amazing life. And becoming a mental health warrior, I am so grateful. You know, it's giving me a platform to share with viewers, to share with fellow warriors, help each other grow, expand, explore, and end the stigma, and it's um thank you, Robert. It's an amazing journey. It's an amazing group of people who have heart and soul, have struggled through their own mental health issues. And I really appreciate that they're here for me, you know? And I really appreciate that the viewers that come on are there supporting us as well. And if you're not already subscribed, please do so. And I'm going to mention that if there's anything that you ever need to learn and you need someone to help you, we're here for you, right? Day and night. We have people in the United States, we have people in England, myself here in Canada. You know, if you want to be a guest, just reach out and message, and we'd love to have you. And you can share with us what your post-traumatic stress looked like, what your depression looks like. You can share with us what you'd like to manifest, right? And there's a little thought I want to give you today, which is from this wonderful book called Thoughts from the Heart of the Soul: Meditations for Emotional Awareness by Gary Zukovic. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but this is the book. And I'm such a book fanatic. I love to read, and it's one of the basics of some of my self-care, right? And affirmations and stuff that make you feel better. So today I picked, it says, page 136, beneath emotional pain is an ocean of fear. Now, I randomly picked this, so it was so appropriate for today. Okay, beneath emotional pain is an ocean of fear, and that's how I felt. A terror of being alive, definitely felt like that. Of not belonging, of being alone, and of being unable to survive. That in itself sums up a lot of what my PTSD felt like. I was in an ocean of fear, that I didn't belong anywhere, that I was useless, that I was alone. But I'm so grateful that I do belong. I do matter. You matter. And, um, you know, if we're not here helping each other raise up and become better people by being compassionate to what others are going through, that's my belief that ending the stigma around mental illness is practice compassion. Okay? Practice kindness. And if you don't know how to practice it, learn. You know, I created what I did, my coloring book series and cards, because I learned these things. I didn't have the ability to understand. I was lacking in being kind to myself and others and also our environment, right? So, um, being loving to yourself is not inappropriate in any way. It's absolutely necessary. And being compassionate to those that are struggling with mental illnesses is the key to raising the vibration of this planet. And I know there are some very evil things going on in the world, but it's not my um, I don't have the ability to reach every single soul out there, so I need you to help us. I need people like Robert, who's watching, and Adam, who's the founder of the Mental Health Warriors, to stay strong, and we're here for him. And all our other warriors who watch and participate and come on and share their thoughts and feelings and outlook on how we should, how we can help people and ending the stigma. So without any further delay, I am going to invite Mary on now, and she can share with us what she feels about her fears, maybe, and what she manifested, and how she deals with her stress and depressions and things like that. And I'm sure she's going to give me some absolutely amazing feedback. So let's welcome Mary. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Hopefully you can hear me.
I'm great. I'm great. How you doing?
One day at a time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, so
So,
good to be here with you today. been crazy,
thanks.
been crazy here in Nebraska. It's cold.
Is it? We've
Yeah,
had the past week has been like the most amazing weather ever. 18, 20, 22 degrees, sunny, and now it's going on the downhill. We're back into fall.
yeah.
Yeah.
Summer, chilly in the morning, summer in the afternoon, and sometime in there spring. And you know, I'm not ready for winter, so we're just gonna skip that. So
How are the winters in Nebraska?
a lot of it really depends. When I was a kid, we get feet and feet, 3, 10, 12 feet of snow. And now we're lucky if we get 6 inches. So yeah, it has definitely changed in 55 years for me. So yeah,
Wow. Wow.
so
So I see I didn't remember what your title was, and don't think you had one before because I went back and looked, and you have Mary Humble Leadership.
yep, yep.
Oh, you
Pretty
want to expand on that for me?
yeah, pretty much what you see is what you get. I've learned in the past 5 to 10 years that it does no good to be louder than the person sitting next to you. It does no
Hmm.
good to point fingers and be angry in front of people. When I do my leadership stuff, a lot of times I'll tell them I'm a side by side leader. I like to lead by example, and I like to lead right next to you because, quite honestly, having been put in positions of just do it and figure it out yourself, well, that gets a little old, especially if somebody needs additional help. I got to a point where it's like, "Ah, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to do it and walk away. What's the worst they're going to do? And so
Hmm.
um, when it when I became in a position of leadership, um, I'm a visual learner, so I would always teach them the way I taught myself.
Hmm. Yeah.
Look at a picture and you go from there. So, but yeah, I'm pretty pretty humble. I do have triggers now and then, but I've learned to control them. And going into what you've been sharing about as far as traumas and that's knowing how to control what hurt you in the past and take the trauma and try to find the positive in it, and
Yeah.
use it to your benefit. So yeah, that's where the humble leadership part comes from. I'm in a family with all boys, and I was raised with all brothers, and I was in the military. So um, a lot of times I find myself in discussion with men, and I used to be the type of person to be like, "I'm done. I'm not. They're not listening to me." In all reality, I wasn't listening to them, and so yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah,
Well,
that's
it's
me in
interesting
that.
you bring up it's interesting you bring up about not listening to men, because used to always either try to dominate men or run away from men. So there was no middle ground for me to even listen to them, because I wanted to punish all of them because of what I'd been through.
Well, and I think that's a natural reaction, especially with trauma and stuff. I
Yeah.
know, I know, being around my brothers, I had to learn how to play football, which I was really good at. I think they were a bit jealous about that, but I'm gonna let that go. But also, um, just having them always constantly telling me, "You don't understand, you don't understand." That's because I listened to talk or to respond. I didn't listen to understand. And so being
Yes.
surrounded by guys, constantly guys and stuff, and even probably four of my seven mentors are guys, and so it's a learning process. But yes, they process things differently, but in all reality, you're just looking for commonality to be able to coexist with each other and understand each other. So yeah.
Hmm.
So
Well,
yep.
listening skills are another thing that I don't know if we're hardwired funny or something when we've been traumatized, but pretty much answering my own question here, but it's like listening skills are affected tremendously when you've been traumatized.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, especially in some of the traumas that I suffered, the first few words out of their mouth, if they're not positive, they're instantly negative. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
already done listening. I'm out. I'm going to walk away. Probably going to be considered the biggest, whatever you want to call me at that point, because then I was just at a point where it's like, you've already, you've already triggered my trauma by your first sentence, and I don't think in their minds they understand how to that first phrase is important to some of us that have been traumatized, and if they don't know
Mhm.
that, then they don't know how to word it, and so 9 times out of 10 it's going to come out negative.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, and the funniest thing I've learned through the years about my fears was, I feared people weren't listening to me, right? So if I'm constantly talking, I wasn't listening, and talking all the time happened to be my mechanism to not have to listen. It had a catch-22 kind of situation.
or or if we talk all the time and they don't say nothing, then we're good to go, right? Well, that's kind of what they call one-sided conversation, because you're literally asking the questions you're looking answers for, and then you're answering yourself, and they're standing there going, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, myself, I've actually turned it around the other way. Is I prefer to listen, because I love that old saying, you have one mouth and two ears. So God gave us two ears so that we could listen more than talk.
well, and I know might agree with this too. You might have one mouth and two ears, but you have a two-edged sword in the tongue.
Hmm.
And so it's like sometimes I need duct tape. Just duct tape it,
Well,
call it a day, because
yeah,
if you've triggered me, you're about to get 17 paragraphs in 30 seconds and they're going to be like not happy. And I've really changed from being like that. I've gone to the listening listening to learn instead of listening to react. So
yeah,
um, so yeah,
yeah.
one of my biggest traumas was I had a head injury in the military. So when I walk in, even to this day, and it's something that is always literally on the back of my head because I had a traumatic brain injury. So when I walk into a large group of people
Hmm.
and I don't have my hat, I'm notorious for a hat. So when you see me here, I don't have my hat, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm good because she can't slap me from through the computer. I'm good, but walking through large crowds, it's like, can I walk next to the wall so I have something behind me? And being a veteran on top of it, I'm always looking for the closest exit in case I need to leave, you know. But yeah, so that's one of my bigger traumas. And then small enclosed places. Now I don't mind doing a presentation in a small enclosed place if I'm in the front and I can see the door in the back. I can concentrate just fine. But man, you put me in a small space with two other people, and I'm like, oh no.
That's a trigger, eh?
It throws off my whole concentration factor. It's like when I do a
Yeah.
presentation, if I know who I'm doing a presentation for, I'm good to go. But if somebody just invites me on the spur of the moment and I've only met them a couple days before, and it's like, okay, breathe. You're outside, you're just looking at the stars or the sun or whatever, and just like, yeah, about 15 minutes before I walk outside and be like, I got this, I got this. So yeah, small
So
spaces.
I'm not alone in the fear of being in crowds.
No, not whatsoever. However, it's kind of a stark contrast because my husband and I were just talking about people finding bunkers under their house from the Cold War era and stuff. And I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And he's looking at me going, really? You? so, so yeah.
Well, it's
But
sort of like getting out of her comfort zone.
mhm. it
Yeah.
completely out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
when I go dancing, when the beginning of the evening, there's not so many people on the dance floor. So I'm up there just flying all over the place. But by the time, 1 o'clock rolls around, the dance floor is pretty packed. So what happens to me is I end up leaving the dance floor and dancing over by the tables because of my traumas, right? I don't want anybody to touch me without my permission.
right, right, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's self-preservation, right? It's a necessary evil.
Yep, yep. And that's just it, And I think you and I've come a long ways where we know what will trigger us, so we stay away from it, uh,
Yeah.
or or at least put it in a position where you can control it, as
Yes,
opposed to
that's what I do
and that's
to
the
manage it, right?
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
even in our family, kids, we all ask for hugs. It's funny.
Yeah.
Can I have a hug? Sure. Sure. Mama, you feeling a hug today? Sure. A lot of that comes with the autism factor and being in a
Yeah.
family of autistics. It's really fun because John will be like, I need a hug. Oh, you need a hug. Okay. I'll give you a hug.
Mhm.
And, this is a kid that never used to hug. So it's like, you're totally baffled that he's asking for a hug. Okay.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I think a lot of people don't, I deal with a lot of folks that have just come back from different areas like Afghanistan and different stuff like that. Um, Again, working two sides up, being autistic and a veteran as well. And with that, I see a lot of similarities in the traumas that they deal with.
Mm.
And so that's kind of interesting to me too. some of it I can totally understand, and then some of them I literally have to sit back and learn about because you know there's 30 years difference between me and the person coming back now from battle and
Yeah.
stuff. So you know, I think my biggest asset to them is being able just to listen to them, and then um, eventually connecting them with some of the folks that I work with, whether they have autism or whether they're veterans. So it's kind of fun that way too. Just kind of
Right.
sit there for me. And when you make that connection and somebody really understands where you're coming from as you are understanding where they come from and that connection, and I know how you probably feel the same way, but that can be a lifelong connection. And so, and yes, I do answer my phone at 3 in the morning if somebody messages me, because that doesn't happen very often. Because if they're messaging at that hour, they're obviously having issues. So, um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes,
So the people you work alongside with dealing with their triggers and their fears and help them through that.
yeah, yeah, and sometimes we might not get off step one, which is what's really what's your biggest trauma. I It depends on the person. Sometimes I'll start with the least amount and work up to depending on the person. What's
Yeah.
some of the less known traumas that you deal with, and then we work up to the big ones. Or sometimes some people just come out to me and go, "This is my biggest issue." Okay,
Yeah.
can we connect tomorrow because I need a few minutes to, you know, see how I want to progress with that because some things get overwhelming for me, even being a leader in that area.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
And just
So
to reflect back on Robert's been messaging. I've been reading
uh
some of them.
yeah, I've been trying to catch
Thank
them
you
too.
for your yeah, thank you for all your feedback, Robert. Um he touches on some things of his um journey and feelings of confidence and people who's helped him. So what do you think manifested for you out of all the fears that you had in your life?
I think just the ability to be able to take take my trauma and be able to express how I dealt with it. I think for me, a lot of it is, and it's kind of like my book that I wrote is it's just a path. I don't expect you to follow my path precisely, but it's a guide to teach people how to go step by step with that.
Hmm.
And so for me, it's just being able to manifest just the control of the situation with the traumas. Yes, working with in the area, kind of like within your area, there's going to be the triggers. But I think a lot of it for me is how do I take that trigger and make it a positive for the person I'm working with. That is something I've really focused on a lot. Um,
Yeah.
I always I have a little thing I do, and my coach caught me doing it one time, or probably many times. But I do a moment where I just stop and I think about it, I pray about it, and then I send it to my heart, and then so that gives me about 15, 20 seconds to kind of breathe, and then
Hmm.
be able to adjust how I would answer instead of taking no seconds and answering in a negative or an angered manner. So that's kind
Right.
of how I've learned to do. I call it my practice to pause, literally.
That's really good.
So,
Yeah.
yep.
I kind of what I practice is like it gets kind of stressful around here with the expectations of other people. And one of the biggest expectations I find is um that they expect me to expect that they're going to get their way all the time.
Right, right,
And so
right.
there's always this vibration of uh is today going to be a good day kind of thing, right? And so I've learned to wake up with a positive attitude, spend time with people, and then instead of reacting to how they're behaving, it's more of, okay, listen, go away, apply compassion, right? Why is this
Mhm.
person sharing this with me? Why is this person angry? Are they angry at me? If they're angry at me, why? What have I done? If I've done anything. And then kind of just allowing it to go through me, right? And say it's okay. I mean,
Right.
uh I can't pick and choose what somebody's going to come at me with, right? So it's easier to, it's very much like what you're saying, is kind of pausing, but I'm not starting from a place of compassion. I'm ending from a place of compassion because I got to feel what I got to feel. And I think a lot of us don't understand that with mental health, we're not, some of us are even not allowing us to feel what we're feeling.
Right. Right. I understand that. And I also think that if somebody's coming at you from an anger or a negative position, I think a lot of that has to do with what they're going through. It has zero to do with you. You just happen to
Yeah,
be the sounding board at that time. And
exactly.
a lot of how they continue is how you react.
Yes. And I
And
find a lot of people, sorry if I'm interrupting, and I find a lot of people um, are looking for a solution, but they won't get it themselves. They're trying to find it from someone else,
mhm,
right? Because
mhm.
they just can't find their own answer.
Right, and I think that's the same way in a business too. And that, you know, um, with what I do, people are coming to ask you questions, and they'll ask you multiple questions, and then it's like, for me, it's like, at what point do you just not sign up for my class? Because literally, you're asking for all this advice, and I give that in my class, and it's one of those where I don't mind giving out. I don't mind helping zero, but if I've got a class and you're just questioning basically what my class says, then you just join my
Hmm.
class. And as an entrepreneur, I'm kind of like, I'm at that stage where I'm like trying to take what I do here and to raise my platform to where it's a monetized platform. And so it's one of
Right.
those where it's like, at what point, okay, I understand you need the answers to these, but why don't you just jump in one of my classes? You know, and again, I will never turn anybody down if they need help. But on the same hand, I'm sitting here going, it's literally what's in my book.
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah. So
I love, go ahead.
they need your classes, but haven't approached you.
In effect, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, again, I'm
There's a
the
lot of
person.
people like that. A lot of people just want to vent and they don't want to do anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find that happens a lot around the people I know as well. And I always revert back to remembering how long it took me to take action. So judge not.
Yeah, I know. And that's just it. I'll help you anytime. But on the
Yeah.
same hand, in the back of your head, you're going, okay, I got you. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm working on a couple big things for spring, so we'll just figure it all out
Hmm.
as we go. But yeah, I think trauma can be overwhelming to a point where nobody wants to even want to talk about it. It's kind of like trauma and PTSD, um, because they don't feel worthy. They really don't. I mean, I've been in that
Yeah.
position. I was in that
Yeah.
position my first 4 years in retail. What are you even doing here other than making a paycheck? You know,
Yeah.
and
Well, we
so
did what we had to do to survive, right?
right, right,
And a lot of what happens to people who've been traumatized do just that, and some don't even survive. Like
right.
I I remember the times when I was paralyzed with fear and I couldn't manifest anything. let alone, like I was saying, I couldn't get off the couch or stay in bed.
Hmm.
But there was always, you know, life doesn't stop revolving around you just because you're in bed. Eh,
Yeah.
the bills still come in and people still want things from you.
Right. Right. Exactly. So yeah, it's one of those where it's like, okay, I can lay here and let fear just overtake me, or you can take fear and turn it into something you can work with. And I think that's the biggest thing is how you deal with it. Each person deals with it differently, and I've run across people who don't even want to talk about it. I mean, what do
Yeah.
you do? What
Ro-
do you do?
yeah, Robert's got a good point here. I don't know if you read it. I'm familiar with this. I didn't realize it, this PTSD, but in the most common form, when you find yourself surrounded by excess clutter, this is where I'm at. I
Hmm.
love this comment because that goes back to when I learned about your inner environment. Your outer environment reflects your inner environment. And if
Hmm.
things are all cluttered, then your brain is all cluttered.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
part of my fear was not caring of all
yeah,
things.
yeah, 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 exactly that. And I apologize if I look like I'm looking down. I got a new computer, so I'm I'm still learning it.
That's
But
okay. I'm always
yes,
constantly looking at the comments and looking
I,
away.
I know Robert's got some good ones over here. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's I think each person you meet is at a different level. And
Hmm.
you and I, as leaders in what we do in the self care and leadership industries or whatever they want to call them, I think we need to be able to get to their level. And I don't know about you, but if I'm talking to somebody and I can see their body language, I can get to their level quicker. And I talk about this all the time on Mental Health Warriors is facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language. I can get farther with that in the first 5 or 10 minutes that I'm talking to you. So I know I guess I've learned to understand that because my boys have taught me that. And
Yeah.
so I
It's
think,
very important what you just said. The facial body language, it's very important. I had no clue when I was always in my head with my mental illness. I was clueless. I didn't pay
mhm.
attention to anything.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
and I always used to tell people it costs me to pay attention. So
Mhm.
you know, and I have learned so much from that. And I sit on a board here for Autism Family Network and
Yeah.
stuff, and just to sit on the meetings and listen to the different parents with the kids with autism and stuff, and watch their body language. You learn so much, and I can go it doesn't happen very often, but I could go a whole meeting and not say a word and know exactly what people are talking about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
that's
I
just
remember when I used to work with an autistic man, it was his language was loud and clear. He was nonverbal, but he let you know when he was angry and he let you know when he was sad. And oh boy,
isn't it funny?
there's so much transparency there.
Well, and it's funny because I deal with this, and I shouldn't say funny, but it's interesting to find that the nonverbal person in your house is the most noisiest.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
literally it's like that, I'm like,
And even
dude,
when they're quiet, they're noisy because you're waiting, like you're constantly thinking, what are they up to? What are they doing? What are they going through?
yeah,
Because they're so silent.
yeah. My
So it's loud.
youngest
It's like right there.
my youngest son, we call it talking to himself, but in the autism world it's called scripting, and he's always talking about what he did in school. You have to listen because he's not going to necessarily tell you what he did at school, but if you listen to his scripting you can tell what they've told him to do all day through school.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It'll
Yeah.
it's kind of creepy fascinating because sometimes it'll be like, well, you need to tell your parents this and this, and I'm like, what'd I
You're
do?
standing right there.
I'm like, I didn't do anything. No, we were talking about you at school. Oh,
Ah.
great. good or bad.
That would have been such a learning curve for you.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so
Mhm.
he's 20 years old, and so I've learned to listen to when he's mumbling. I'm really hard of hearing,
Yeah.
so I have to listen real close. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today, Mary. And
all right,
I'm really enjoying doing these little, half hour by myself and sharing a little bit about myself and my travels through PTSD, and getting feedback and sharing other people's views on
hmm
fears and
hmm
self-confidence, and all the topics that I talk about is really important, I think, for people to tune in to and listen to. And
so,
we're currently working on our mission statement, and ending the stigma is going to expand and be totally explained now.
I feel a subtle hint there.
Yes, hint, hint, hint.
You already know my
I'm
phrase.
trying to be humble about it.
It's only going to take me about 30 seconds to type that in there. I should probably do that
Oh,
and be
I
done with
know.
it.
You know, I believe in giving people reminders, and it's that simple. So,
Yes. So,
yeah. Anyhow, is there anything you would like to add to close up for today? Do you have any messages for the viewers?
I think the biggest thing is make sure you support the mental health warriors. They have a lot of good going on. I'm in
Yeah.
the process of going back to every other week because I have acquired a few multiple things in between now and then. So I'm kind of running a little different course than I was ready for, but busy's good. And so if if anybody needs to reach out, I'm more than happy to. You just need to message me on Facebook or whatever needs to be done, and I absolutely love being on with the mental health wares when I get here. Again, um, YouTube and Amazon and Spotify, I think we're all on. So yeah, just
Yeah.
hit us up on there. I'm also, I think if Adam shares his, I think I can too, but we're on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook as well. So,
Well, you
don't be,
just made my job easier.
I think it's because I have my own show too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you get, if you guys ever, it's not hard to reach out. We got some amazing people on here, and I can't thank Dale Walsh and Adam Duvall and Carrie and Andrea and a few others that we have on our that have programs. So you just can't thank them enough for taking the hour out of their day and just making people aware of what we have to offer as a major group and stuff. And so, and I can
Yeah.
guarantee you, if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find the answer for you. So
Yeah.
there it is.
And I wanted to share with you and the viewers. I have fantastic news. I'm finally getting some sponsors for my 2023 coloring calendar and book. So watch for it, people. It's going to be amazing. I have amazing artwork in it, and people have colored it from people who have purchased my books. So they're available if you want to order any, and it has coloring pages in the back of the book. And of course, there's going to be donations from the sales of it to go towards mental health. So get your calendars, everyone. They're beautiful.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you again, Mary, for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for viewing. And like and subscribe. And I'll be back in 2 weeks with another wonderful topic around PTSD, self-care, and maybe another fun, interesting guest. Take care for now out there in the world. Bye for now.